Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
It is wonderful to be together again. You might have thought we were done with Yom Kippur, but alas, we get to be together again for Sukkot starting tomorrow at our block party, which I will share more information about later in the evening. After days of rain, I don't know about all of you, but I am personally finding so much gratitude for this beautiful weather that we find ourselves in tonight. In one another's company, preparing for a restful Shabbat and for a week of time sheltered by God's wings, by our temporary dwelling spaces, one of which we can see just behind the tent. One of my favorite aspects of Sukkot is that we share these spaces with guests, with one another. So I, Rabbi Bacon, feel very privileged to be sharing tonight the Bima with Cantor Amanda Kleinman and, of course, with our musicians Jerome Morris and Pete Malin-Verney and Edon Valdman in the back. And in the name of sharing, we are very excited to call upon the Polacks who are celebrating Sophia's bat mitzvah tomorrow to come up and help us light the Sabbath candles so that we can share in the lights together, share in our warmth together.
Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu ledlik ner shel Shabbat.
Sophia, we wish you and your entire family Mazel Tov. I cannot wait to share the Bima with you tomorrow. At this time, we'll turn in our prayer books to page 662. We will welcome Shabbat this evening with the words of Psalm 27. These are words that you heard us chant throughout the month of Elul, throughout our high holidays, but in fact, we actually continue to chant this psalm through the holiday of Sukkot and all the way until just before the holiday of Simchat Torah. It's a reminder to us that this period of introspection and reflection doesn't end with Yom Kippur, but our tradition gives us the gift of another week over the holiday of Sukkot to continue meditating on some of the themes that came up for us over the course of the high holidays. So we'll continue with Achad Sha'alti, page 662. Achad Sha'alti meit Adonai ota vakesh. Achad Sha'alti meit Adonai ota vakesh. Shivti bebeit Adonai kol yemei chayai. Lachazot benoam Adonai ulevaker beichalo. Lachazot benoam Adonai ulevaker beichalo.
We turn now to page 138 for Lecha Dodi, singing verses 1 to 5 and 9.
Lecha Dodi ligrat kala שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה. מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי. אורי אורי שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
Verse 9.
בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה. תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
We remain standing for the call to prayer, and we turn to page 146.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
Baruch Adonai HaMorech le'olam va'ed.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. We give thanks now for the gift of creation, the gift of changing times, of changing seasons, with these words that we will chant in the Torah just over a week from now, words from the story of the first day of creation. There was evening, there was morning, Hinei Tov Me'od. There was evening, there was morning, there was evening,
remain standing for the Shema on page 152.
In just a moment, we'll continue on page 158 in our prayer books as we sing together the words of Mi Chamocha. it is customary for us to sing the Mi Chamocha to the melody associated with the time of year that we are in. So you might have heard a melody that we were singing at the beginning of our service. You can listen to it for a second and Pete can play it. So we sang that as a nigun without words at the beginning of our service. And one thing that you might notice about this melody is that it's a little bit weird sounding, right? A musical way to refer to that would be to say that it's a very modal tune. And the reason that it sounds so unusual to us, in fact, is because it is so old. This is actually a melody that dates back at least to the medieval period, if not further. It's called a Mi-Sinai melody, a melody that's so old that it is said to have been given along with the Torah at Mount Sinai. And this is our ancient melody associated with the holiday of Sukkot. So we'll sing these words together, Mi Chamocha, on page 158, to our slightly strange melody, but one that I love because, especially the way that Pete plays it, it sounds like a march, which sounds very appropriate for the festival of Sukkot, which is a pilgrimage holiday. So when I sing it, I can sort of envision the large pilgrimage to the Holy Temple in Jerusalem over the festival of Sukkot. So we can all be pilgrims together and sing together 158. Mi chamocha bailim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar bakodesh, nora tehilot, osei feleh, yai la 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 la, yai la 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 la. Adonai Yaakov, ugealo miyad chazak mimenu, baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael.
A poem by Leslie Koppelman Ross to help us spiritually prepare for Sukkot, where we are transitioning. Let the walls of my heart be easily moved as the walls of the sukkah that sway in the wind. Let the roof of my heart be porous to tears as the roof of the sukkah that lets in the rain. Let the space in my heart be open to guests as to ushpizin who pass through each night. Let the beat of my heart be a vital reminder that life here is transient, a temporary dwelling. Let the walls, left unsealed, and the roof with its lattice frame the cracks that will let in the light.
Page 160, the bottom of the page.
Baruch atah Adonai haborei sukat shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai haborei sukat shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Ve'al Yerushalayim ve'al kol amo. Ve'al Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael.
Page 164.
Open my eyes to truth, open my hands to give freely, open my lips to good words, to pure words, open my heart to love. Open my eyes to truth, open my hands to give freely, open my lips to good words, to pure words, open my heart to love. Adonai sfatai tiftach, ufi agi tehilatecha. Open my lips to good words, to pure words, open my heart to love. Adonai sfatai tiftach, ufi agi tehilatecha. Open my lips to good words, to pure words, open my heart to love. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'konei Hakol, Ve'zocher Chasdei Avot ve'imahot, Umevi Geula livnei v'neihem, Leman shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh hakol atah Rav le'Hoshia, Morid hatal, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishenei afar. Michamocha bal gevurot, Umido melach, Melech memit umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lahachayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kdoshim bechol yom yahalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh.
We pray silently, turning to the meditations of our hearts or the words of our Sidurim. And when you are ready, you may be seated.
Words from Psalm 126, set to music by Debbie Friedman of blessed memory, and appropriate for this season. Those who sow in tears will reap in joy.
Those who sow in tears will reap in joy, will reap in joy. Those who sow in tears will reap in joy. Those who sow in tears will reap in joy, will reap in joy. Those who sow in tears will reap in joy. It's the song of the dreamer. From the dark place it grows, like a flower in the desert, the oasis of our souls. Come back where we belong. You who hear our longing cries, our mouths, our lips are filled with song. You can see our tear-filled eyes. Those who sow in tears will reap in joy, will reap in joy. Those who sow in tears will reap in joy.
So once again, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. There was a sheet, which we call in Hebrew a daf, a page, that was by our Sidurim. I regret to inform us that there's definitely not enough for everybody, but for most. So I'm going to read as much as possible in the scenario that you do not have a sheet, and I apologize for that. So my fiance's second love, or perhaps his first love, is the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm sorry. I thought that was going to be like Haman, where when I say Philadelphia Eagles, we all go, boo. So let's try that again. Philadelphia Eagles. So I've gotten to understand the Philadelphia Eagles the more that I explore Philly as I take many trips with my fiance. And I've learned, people are right. They are, we won't say crazy fans. Let's say they are committed. They are very committed fans. In fact, they are cheering for their team, the Philadelphia Eagles, when they're not even in season. It could be not football season, and they're cheering for the Philadelphia Eagles. So before we keep going, let's just get a show of hands. Who here likes football? Okay. Who here loves somebody who likes football? Okay. Right. So this touches our lives a little bit, right? So what I want to do with this metaphor of the Philadelphia Eagles, it's more of a segue to talk about the animal, the eagle, and how we are related to that animal. But what I'm going to loop around to is the idea that fans of the Eagles are fans all year round. And what I'm going to get to for us is what is our commitment to Judaism, to internal reflection all year round, just like the fans of the Philadelphia Eagles, right? Okay, so thank you for bearing with me through that. So we are turning to Deuteronomy 32:1. In this week's Parsha, Parshat Ha'azinu, we learn that God can have the metaphor of being an eagle, that God is like an eagle. So maybe God's a member of the Philadelphia Eagles, I don't know. Or maybe he's just the bird. Or God, sorry, don't say he, God is the bird. So we're turning to Deuteronomy 32:11. I'm going to read this out loud. Like an eagle who rouses its nestlings, gliding down to its young, so did God spread wings to take them, bear them along God's wings. So what we learn here is not only that God protects us, the Israelites, but God bears us on God's wings, so God allows us to soar. And that's some of what we have in this week's Parsha. But this week's Parsha is not the only place in the Torah where God is likened to an eagle. So if for those of you who have the sheet, look down at our next source, and if you don't, I will read it out loud. We turn to Genesis 1, the beginning of creation, which we will soon read because our new cycle of reading is around the corner. When God began to create heaven and earth, the earth being unformed and void, with darkness over the surface of the deep, and a wind from God hovering over the water. Okay, so you might be saying, Rabbi, there was no eagle there. What are you talking about? A lot of commentators look to this Hebrew word hovering, mirachefet, and you can actually look back at Deuteronomy and see yirachef, that it's the same verb used to describe the eagle soaring. And so a lot of commentators, rabbinic commentators, will associate this passage of Genesis with the passage of Deuteronomy, and once again liken God to an eagle that soars, that hovers over the waters and the earth, protecting the land and the people. So now we look to Exodus, and we see once again, you have seen what I did to the Egyptians, how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to me. So what's new about this portion of Exodus is God is not only protecting and holding, but God is now taking us from one place to another. I brought you to me. So not only is God taking us to God, but there's also this sense of going from one place to another. And if we remember from the high holidays, we spoke about Egypt, the word for Egypt being Mitzrayim, and that Mitzrayim can also mean narrow straits. And it can refer to our constricted consciousness when we are not in our true state of being. And that's what Yom Kippur is so much of about, that we are trying to atone and reflect so that we can return to God, return to our true nature of being. So to an extent, God as eagle, this eagle is protecting us, holding us, and helping us go from place to place, internally helping us transform ourselves. So now that takes me to Ibn Ezra and Deuteronomy 32. Where Ibn Ezra, a rabbinic commentator, just takes this idea home, and he says it means that God leads them from place to place. So this is just some of what we can see as God of eagle and what that means for the Jewish people. But if we flip to the back of the page, there's a little bit more for us. And we find out that we are all on the Philadelphia Eagles, that all of us are likened to an eagle, right? If God is parent, Avinu Malkeinu, the children are going to be like parent. They too are eagles. So I want to take us to Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Biberdovich, and I'm going to read this out loud. This is a commentary from a rabbi. The Jewish children can themselves be compared to an eagle. The feathers of the eagle fall off at the end of each year and are replaced by new feathers. Thus the name for eagle, Nesher, from the Hebrew to fall. God gave the Jewish people the characteristic of the eagle. We have the ability to renew ourselves, to change our ways, to become better. And the source above this, Rashi on Psalms, reads, the eagle renews itself. So essentially, the eagle, which renews its wings and feathers from year to year, is as if somebody is transforming themselves. So we've gone from just likening God to an eagle that has these ideas of protection and shelter, and now we've embodied that in ourselves, realizing that we too can shake our feathers and can completely renew ourselves. And that is really the goal of what we've been doing over these high holidays, right? And now we reach this Shabbat when we're on the cusp of Sukkot. And we might be thinking to ourselves, all right, we've shed our feathers, and here we are. We're brand new. We're shiny. Our feathers are nice and soft. They're going to grow in really nicely. And so we're done. But what we learn from the rest of these sources on this source sheet underneath, how is the metaphor of an eagle relevant after Yom Kippur? Well, the Zohar teaches us that the Jewish book of mysticism explains that the gates of heaven do not close on Yom Kippur, but actually they close on Hoshana Rabbah, the 7th day of Sukkot. This is repeated in the Talmud, which explains, so Hoshana Rabbah is referred to in the Talmud as the willow, because we shake the lulav and the etrog, right? And it says that Hoshana Rabbah, the day when the heavenly judgment begins and the day when it concludes. And I want to add to that there's this beautiful quote that is personally one of my favorite quotes that says, the most important days of the year of the Jewish calendar are not between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, but between Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah. That our work of shaking our feathers doesn't happen once a year. It can happen every single day. And that the most important time to do it continues, especially in this next week after Yom Kippur. So just in this moment when we think we're done, when we think we're finally over, we get to do more. And not only do we get to do more, but we get to do it under the shelter of God's wings within our Sukkot, our Sukkot Shalom, our Sukkot. So I want to take this metaphor of the eagle and take this idea that the gates are still open and think of our harvest. You know, Sukkot is a celebration of the harvest, of the fruits that we collect. But if we think about it in a spiritual, metaphorical way, we're actually reaping, just like the song we just sang, we're reaping the harvest of the seeds that we sowed last year, right? So our harvest is not just of fruits and food, but of emotions and the way that we deal with our relationships. What are we harvesting this Sukkot? So what I want to leave as a question for all of us, for my little eagles, is can we really be like Philadelphia fans? And can we cheer for our team, return to God, shake our feathers, even on the off season, which we're learning tonight is not actually the off season? And what kind of seeds would we like to sow so that we can cultivate the harvest for next year? So we turn now, thinking of those who are in need of healing, whether in mind, body, or in spirit. And as I gaze across the room and my eyes meet yours, please feel free to recite the name aloud of your loved one. Today, the WRT community is holding in our hearts Lisa Schneider, Rachel Rackauer, Jennifer Leventhal, Roberta Friedman, Jeffrey Millman, Yisrael Ben Pearl, Yochanan Ben Sipora, Marilyn Weiner, Judy Balsam, Larry Bassett, Esther Bat Machal Bavarezel, Leah Bat Nina Bat Benjamin, Rachel Bracha, Bruce Sharkey, Steve Grodzinski, Grace Neidish, Tony and Gina DeLappa, Matthew Atwood, Anthony and Elizabeth Dankner, Deborah Kapnick, Nicole Shusi, Neil Glaskell, Leah Greenspan, Masha Batsora, Andrew Goldstein, Ken Master, Chava Batsara, Eliyahu Chaim Ben Fredel, Sheila Fried, Malka Tzipora Bas Rachel, Tamar Bat Malka, Deborah Greenfield, Bonnie Shapiro, Heschel Meir Ben David Achana. And together we offer the Misha Berach, thinking of all of those names and those that you offered, turning to page 371.
Ooh. blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishebeirach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We rise for the Aleinu on page 586.
Aleinu leshabeach Adon hakol, lateitu l'aliyot sebreshit, shelo asanu k'goyei ha'aratzot, velo sabanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chalkeinu k'nahem, v'gor aleinu k'chol hamonam, v'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו echad.
A brief meditation before Kaddish, and this comes from our Yom Kippur Machzor. Your absence has gone through me like thread through a needle. Everything I do is stitched with its color. If you are in a period of Shiva, 7 days since the death of your loved one, please rise in body or in spirit. If you are in a period of Shloshim, 30 days since the death of your loved one, please rise in body or in spirit. If you are in a period of Shana within 1 year of the death of a loved one, please rise in body or in spirit. And if you are honoring a yahrzeit, the anniversary of your loved one's passing, please rise. At this time, we invite the entire congregation to rise in solidarity with our mourners. Today, our WRT community is also remembering those taken from us in recent days. Jack Silver, father of Pam Rubin, Cheryl Bernstein, and Jill Kellner. Bruce Steinberg, husband of Eve Steinberg and father of Jeffrey, Daniel, and Philip Steinberg. Samuel Altman, brother of Joy Henschel and uncle of Dale, Patty, Diane, and Judy Henschel. Ginny Haber, wife of Gary Haber, mother of Tracy McCarthy and Jason Haber, sister of Jerry Fisher, sister-in-law of Jeffrey and Anne Marie Haber, and aunt of Danny Haber. We are also remembering those whose yahrzeit is marked over this Shabbat. Paul Ospitz, Helen Bader, Francis Barr, Stephen Bosses, Rabbi Marcus Burstein, Laura Klebansky, Cyrus Diamond, Dina Diner, Carl Diner, Ronald D. Ecker, Philip Ellman, Calvin Ezrin, Etta Fishman, Regina Fisher, Stanley Fisher, Anita Frisch, Marilyn Goldberger, Norman Goodfarb, Emmanuel Green, Fred Grossfeld, Edith Gross, Herbert Guggenheimer, Saul Hodis, Lydia Jacobs, Carl Leff, Dennis Kerner, Natalie M. Korchmar, Paul Krantz, Howard Kravitz, Benjamin Lass, Abraham Laxer, Ruth Stoles-Lazar, Ella Leibowitz, Rita Margolis, Frederick Marsh, David Mayhew, Louis Medvinsky, Pearl Mizrahi, Jane Ortner, Arthur Parisi, Norma Parker Rosenthal, David Robert Perlis, Martin Rayfell, Sarah Temkin, Benjamin Rocklin, Charles Rosenbaum, Belle Rosenberg, Rita Rosenblum, Rabbi Jerome Rosenblum, Louis Rosenstein, Carol Rosenthal, Shirley Rubin, Herbert Schnitzer, Richard Schwartz, Harris Shapiro, Leonard Sizitsky, Edward Stiefel, Jean Stiefel, Gus Strauss, Harris Sufian, Shirley Tainsky, Leonard Waits, Herman Wiesenthal, Sally Wiley, and William Wolk. If I have inadvertently mispronounced the name of a loved one, please feel free to recite their name aloud now. Okay. We turn now to our ancient words of grief, the Mourner's Kaddish, on page 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, bi'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'gala uv'izman kariv v'yamru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam ulamei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei dekudesha b'richu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran bi'alma v'yamru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yamru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yamru amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen.
You may be seated. So for some announcements this week, we have Torah study tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., either in the Sifriya in person or over Zoom, and I will be there leading. I look forward to being with all of you who are present. We also have Sharing Shabbat at 9 a.m. tomorrow. We hope you will join us on Sunday for the Sukkot Block Party, formerly known as the Sukkah Slam. It is back in action. 4:30 is Pizza in the Hut. 5 to 7 is the block party itself. 7 to 7:40 is our Erev Sukkot service. And then 7:45 to 8:30 is Spirits in the Sukkah. And Cantor Kleiman can speak better to this than me, but I hear that clergy transform into bartenders. So I can't wait to see it happen. And this celebration is a play on the word ushpizot, on spirits, guests, those that are no longer in the flesh that join us in the Sukkah. On Monday, we have our Sukkot Festival service at 10 a.m. On Tuesday at 7:30 p.m., the MRJ, Men of Reform Judaism, is having their monthly meeting to schmooze and plan events. Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. is our spousal bereavement group over Zoom. The link is in the bulletin. Also on Wednesday, 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. is the RAC New York Climate Covenant Bond Act webinar. Link is also in the bulletin. Thursday at 10:15 a.m. over Zoom is Rabbi Blake's A Deep Reading of Pirkei Avot, the Wisdom of Our Ancestors. On the same day, Thursday, and actually at the same time, 10:15 a.m., the WRJ Women of Reform Judaism is hosting a Sukkot Harvest Festival or celebration where people will meet, greet, study, sing, pray, eat, and schmooze. And on Friday, we are excited to be celebrating Sukkot and Simchat Torah with our guest artist, Billy Jonas.
Do you mind if I add a few words about the weekend?
Amazing.
So next weekend, we will be hosting an artist in residence who Rabbi Bacon just told us is Billy Jonas. And Billy Jonas is awesome, and he features what he calls industrial repercussion, which means that he uses recycled instruments, and so like instead of drums, he's banging on garbage cans, and it's very, very, very cool what he does. He'll be with us throughout the weekend. He'll be with our ECC community on Friday morning. He'll be with our congregational community for Shabbat services Friday night. He'll be with Sharing Shabbat on Saturday morning, and then with our wider JLL community as part of our Simchat Torah celebration, our consecration of our youngest learners in the JLL, and as part of Rabbi Leah Citron's installation, which is taking place next Sunday that we hope you'll join us for. It begins, I think the evening begins around 4:30, but check your e-blast for details. But you'll want to spend some time with Billy Jonas and his band next Shabbat if you're available, and we'll hope to see you.
Beautiful. So please join us now in a closing song, and we can rise if you'd like. Let's rise for the closing song.
We'll sing again, "Those who sow in tears will reap in joy." Join me.
Those who sow in tears will reap in joy, will reap in joy. Those who sow in tears will reap in joy. Those who sow in tears will reap in joy, will reap in joy. Those who sow in tears will reap in joy.
Join us now in Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit Ki hu yom techila lemikra'e kodesh zecher lisiat Mitzrayim Ki vanu v'acharta v'otanu kidasha mikol hamim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat.
Amen.
I see that many of you have your arms wrapped around each other already in an imitation of our braided challah here. And if you haven't already, I would invite you to do so as together we sing the Motzi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Thank you so much for being here.